Hello, and welcome to this episode of Spotlight on the Divorce Expert. And today we're going to take a step away from maybe the legal, the financial, the emotional, although surprisingly, this may fit into kind of all of those categories as well. I am here to speak with Brynn Ungerleider, and Brynn and I met. Oh gosh, a couple of years ago now. Brynn's been on a couple of things that I've done, and she's been on my podcast. But what makes Brynn's service really unique is she actually founded a national network called the Premier Nanny Network, and she connects families and individuals, single parents, with professionals who can help in all kinds of things around their home. So, not just childcare, believe it or not. So, I think that this is fascinating. We're going to talk about this and how this is going to play in as perhaps something that if professional, if mom and dad are both busy professionals, or if time constraints are there, or all of a sudden you're looking at perhaps being a single parent and trying to run a business and this and that, you might want to look at having, looking at outsourcing some of those services. Well, I guess you call it insourcing. Right, Brynn? Because you're actually bringing them into that. So I'm going to stop talking now. Brynn is, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to found the Premier Nanny Network.
Well, thank you very much for that lovely introduction. I'm Brynn, and I founded the Premier Nanny Network after being a professional nanny for over 20 years, as well as a household manager and just the Jill of all trades in every household. Anything that I needed to help pick up or take care of, I just did it. And I think that is what contributed to a lot of my success. And the reason why I decided to found Premier Nanny Network and put myself into the divorce world is because I'm the product of a divorce. Even 26 years later, my parents still do not speak to one another. And so it plays really close to my personal soul path and my heart, meeting and working with families and children that are going through such a big transition. And I think that a lot of children out there can appear to be just fine on the outside, but inside they're really trying to figure out how to work through these big emotions, these two households that they're now trying to, oh, well, are my shoes at this household or who's picking me up when? And it can kind of weigh on these little souls a little bit more than most of us are realizing. And so that is why I'm here
Yeah,
and
yeah.
doing what I do.
And I think, as you said, so many people in the divorce industry, I'm going to call it an industry, but the divorce world, the
Mhm.
divorce field really are focused on helping families and particularly helping kids so that they're not experiencing, some of the same things that they went through or that they know of their friends or their family members went through. So, Brynn, you mentioned a really interesting term, and I know we want to talk all about all the services that people can look for when they're looking at maybe taking on the role as a single parent. But you mentioned one that I had never heard before our very first conversation, and that was house manager. Can you talk a little bit about that one?
I would love to. A household manager is basically what I like to refer to as your wife in a completely platonic relationship and partnership professionally. This is someone that comes in and they handle everything from vendor logistics, if you need property management, to maintenance on your vehicles, organizing your family calendar, running all of the errands. Some even actually do meal prepping if you outline that in your job description, to also taking care of the children, running kids from events, helping you kind of pick up where things are slipping through the cracks. There's so many hats that a household manager can wear. And it's really wonderful as a former household manager myself to really be able to step into a home, see what needs to be assisted and helped with, and kind of just hit the ground running. And so a
Yeah.
lot of the moms that I work with that are that own their own businesses, they are looking more for a household manager to kind of pick up that, other foot that's kind of dropping because now they're trying to do everything on their own while run a business. And it can
Yeah.
be very hectic. And the one thing I love to hear the most from my clients is I'm so grateful that I have time to actually be with my children. Many of these moms that are business owners or single moms that are getting back into the workforce are really sacrificing a lot of time, doing all of these errands, all of these chores when they really want to be spending time with their children. You only get 18 summers with them before they leave. And so a household manager coming into your home is able to really take over the majority of those mundane tasks. So you can really focus on being a mom or a dad.
Yeah. I love that. And maybe let's just differentiate that from a nanny. So What
Sure.
if that's what a household manager does, what's a nanny do?
Hmm. A nanny is specifically there to take care of your children. They clean up after the messes that are made by the children. They help with, food prepping. If your kids are not in school yet, they'll handle lunches, dinners, those kinds of things. But they're strictly there to help with development and enrichment in your kids. They're less likely to go above and beyond with, vehicle maintenance, running extra chores, helping with any property management, anything in that kind of wheelhouse. They more are there to really just give all of their attention to your children. So it's a great
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. And I think that's a really clear distinction for me. So I'm guessing that if you're looking for the two, go the household manager. Get everything done for you. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic because you're right. Imagine just being able to come home from work and the
Hmm.
house is clean and the if you want the meals are prepped or at least you know what you're cooking, the car's serviced, ready to go, the dry cleaning's picked up, the
Yep.
whatever, all the errands are done and you can just come home and take care of your time with your kids and just really enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just really lovely. I've experienced it. I've had moms hug me and cry, thanking me. Just thank you so much for putting dinner on the stove. I had such a big day at work and you took away such a large mental load. And, for me, I always think of leaving that household that evening and watching them all sit down at the table and say goodbye. And I shut the door and I was like, ah, that is peace right there. And I gave them something that they really, nobody can really buy. And it just, it still means so much to me. And I help people find that every day.
Right. And you have my understanding of what you do from our last conversation is you really focus on pairing the right professional, whether it's a nanny or a household manager, with the family so that it's not like like Mrs. Doubtfire where there's 150 people coming to interview and none of them match, right? It's a whole different
Yes.
experience.
Well, I take over the 150 people that are coming to apply for the job so that the parents are not being overwhelmed and put into this flurry of, I'm the best, I'm the best. And there's so many really wonderful, amazing professionals out there that are really, truly gifted in this industry. And the other thing I really like to do that I have started to incorporate more into my practice is educating more families on industry standards because a lot of nannies and household managers we really operate well with guaranteed guaranteed payment, meaning like if you send us home early, we still really do need to get paid. We still have bills that we need to make. PTO, paid, sick days. If we come in and take care of your kids while they're sick, we may get sick. We also need to recuperate. And so there's a kind of a nuance to both sides that I now work with in terms of educating families and parents on these industry standards while also working with and kind of putting a wall across the door there, shutting the door a little bit so that these families aren't inundated with 150 applicants. Sometimes I'm meeting over 300 people for a position and really whittling them down. And I really turned back onto my over 2 decades of being a nanny to really go through, my 8-point vetting process, my background checks. I make sure they answer my questions. I make sure that they're asking me questions that really show that they know what they're doing before I even allow them to meet with anyone.
Right. Now there's a big difference. And I'd love to have your opinion on this because there's a lot of stopgap people that can look after your kids. If you're in a
Mhm.
pinch, you can ask the neighbor, or maybe there's a teenager down the street that's willing to come in and babysit, as we used to
Yes.
say, you know. Um,
Yes.
all these different things, or maybe you get the grandparents to look after the kids, but long
Mhm.
term, that can create some real stress and strain both on you as the parent that's trying to coordinate multiple people coming in and out, and also really being able to say my kids are safe with everybody I'm leaving them with. I think that's a big concern for parents. What
It's such a big concern.
yeah,
It's huge.
how does working with a professional nanny or a house manager that's professional, that's vetted, that's gone through the background check, that how does that differ from this kind of spaghetti on the wall approach to looking after kids?
Well, I guess it kind of comes down to the needs of the family. Some people really love the spaghetti on the wall and having
Right.
to wake up every morning and go, oh, I need to find somebody to watch the kids this week. There are so many people that thrive in that kind of world, and good for them. I don't. I like to have my ducks in a row. I'm a business owner. While I don't have children, I do understand that at any point in my day, my business can pivot. And I've worked with several business owners that have experienced that. So it kind of comes down to, do you like being stressed out on trying to find someone to watch your children? And then adding that icing on your cake of, are they trustworthy? Can I leave them with my kids? Can they drive my children and not get in an accident? Are they going to be sober while they're with my children? All of these questions really do come up. And so that's what's so pivotal in finding a long-term situation, because you're finding someone, especially as you're going through divorce, the best thing you can give your kids is consistency. And sometimes that, extra gift is having that neutral adult that's there to listen without judgment, isn't playing sides, is there to hear what your kids have to say. I can't tell you how many times children have opened up to me about their big feelings while we're playing in their room, and their parents are like, well, I don't know if I even really want to go to my dad's house later this week, because every time I go there, he makes me stay up really late and I'm tired and he doesn't even give me good food. And those kinds of things kind of bubble out. And a lot of the nannies I talk to are very much like, hey, so little Johnny here mentioned a couple of things, and I really, I'm doing my best to stay neutral, but I do feel like you and your ex-husband should probably find a better way to map the households. And I talk about that a lot in my manual as well, to kind of help both homes kind of find that consistency. But in a long-term relationship with a nanny, you're not just finding someone that can fly in and out. You're really bringing someone in that you can rely on, that's responsible, trustworthy, and you build a relationship with them. And there are children to this day that still reach out to me that I used to nanny, like, oh my gosh, are you Nanny Brynn? I remember you. And I always am like, yes, it's me. I'm so glad to hear from you. And, I still speak to, gosh, probably 99% of the kids that I've worked with throughout my career.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that nuance that you mentioned there, Bryn, that different families it's going to work for. If you are maybe only looking for somebody for an hour after school, then the teenager down the road may be the perfect option. But if you're somebody that maybe works shift work or does overtime, that sometimes you don't have any control whether you're doing overtime. I'm thinking of people I know that work in hospitals or
Yes,
first responders, or
yes.
people that have jobs where if something goes wrong, they've got to stay there until it gets fixed. And so
Hmm.
sometimes that's the kind of scramble where you're all of a sudden facing like an overtime shift and you didn't plan to do overtime, so now you've got to scramble and find somebody. um
Oh yeah, it's so
yeah.
stressful. And I hear about it. I have clients that come and they find me because of it. And they're like, I wasn't planning on having to stay longer and my babysitter quit because of the lack of consistency. I hear about that pretty often too. And I touch on that in a lot of the educational materials I have as well. Like, there's certain parameters that we need to set for your nanny, and so that they feel comfortable and you understand, that you need to be very clear on what your expectations are.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because I think that's something you offer that is very different than probably other agencies or many other agencies may offer. And that is that you have a couple of things that you give parents, or you give anybody, I guess, that's asking for them or that talks to you, some strategic ways, some assessments, and some things. This manual you talked about. Tell us about that range and these are free, I'm guessing, right? That people can just come to you, talk to you, and then the consultation is free, right? With you, and then you
So
can.
yeah, absolutely. My on my website, I have a pop up. It shows up, and it's a great way to figure out if your child is surviving or thriving. And it doesn't matter if you're going through divorce or if you're just a busy family, or if you feel like maybe you're seeing some different behaviors from your children that you didn't normally see or you haven't seen before. That's a great way to kind of begin the assessment and kind of start, rolling the ball toward the toolkit. The toolkit's offered at $14.99 right now. I'm considering raising it just because of the feedback and wonderful progress it has made. But in that toolkit, there are assessments, and then there's mapping between households. And it kind of touches on if you decide you want to move forward with a nanny. And then my complete manual is everything that is in the toolkit. And then also my professional contracts. I kind of go into a little bit more detail about taxes. I have a payroll sponsorship in there that'll give you 2 free months of payroll through my partnership. It has all of the assessments that you can print out, the mapping behaviors between households that kind of really give you a deep dive into are these behaviors because of our divorce or because of our busy family, or are these behaviors that maybe we need to seek more professional help through therapy or, child therapy, play therapy, those kinds of things too. And that manual right now is at $4.99. And I think I'm going to leave it at that price point just because I feel like it's just such a wonderful, substantial little chunk of just knowledge for so many families that maybe you don't want to go through a nanny agency and you don't want to have to deal with the rigmarole of finding one that you like. If you don't want to come to me, that's fine. This is everything you need from A to Z to help you find the right person, including a lot of extras in there to help you set yourself up for success. Like I talk about the industry standards because a lot of families don't understand what it goes into for us to be a nanny and the things that we sacrifice, just like in any other job. But I feel like there's so much more heart involved in these positions. It's such an intimate position for us that we all get really attached to you guys. We get so attached to your children. Every single day I talk to nannies that are like, I have to leave my job because the kids are going to school. I'm going to miss them so much and I'm still going to see them. But it's such a heart-centered job for us. And so I really go into a deep dive and a lot of details on how to keep your nanny happy, how to keep that longevity, because the last thing I want to hear is, you're just kind of going through nanny after nanny. And I do hear that a lot, especially with people that are surgeons or those first responders where their schedules are changing so often. And it's really wonderful if any of you are wondering the first step, it's just set really clear expectations with your nanny, whether it's a household manager, a mother's helper that only comes in certain hours of the day, or a house, every tier that is offer and support. Be very clear on those expectations from the beginning. And I kind of go into the full breakdown of all of those nitty gritty details in that complete manual. But if you're just kind of trying to dip your toe into this world and you don't know where to begin and you're overwhelmed because you're getting divorced or your business is taking off or, maybe a parent has just passed away, you're more than welcome to just check out my toolkit. It's just a wonderful introduction, or just the assessment on my website at premiernannynetwork.com. You can go there, it'll pop up, just enter your email and they'll send it to you. And it's a really, really great foundation for you to start building on keeping your child centered, especially
Yeah.
if you're going through some big transitions.
Yeah. And I love that people can just access it, comes right to their email. They can do whatever they
Yep.
want with it. So that's
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah.
And I think this is something that this is something that even before the divorce, you might want to start thinking about, particularly if you have young children that are going to
Yes.
need some support. Summer holidays are coming up. You probably aren't going to get 2 whole months off, right? So there's going to be time gaps there.
Yep.
And my understanding, and is that if you work with the nannies, if you have this all arranged, like a nanny could maybe travel with you, like
Oh,
if
yeah.
go somewhere else for the summer. What about a nanny going between the parents' homes with the kids? What does that work ever?
Oh yeah, I've actually done that. I remember I worked for a family many, many moons ago, and the parents did speak to one another, and it was very tumultuous. And their little boy, he left his soccer cleats at the dad's house, and the mom was like, "Well, I have time. I can go get them because they're for his game." And he's, of course, very upset because he doesn't want to stand out from his team. He needs his cleats. And it's not his fault that they were left behind. It was just a miscommunication on where things needed to be and when, which with chaos of life, that totally happens. And the dad was, I don't want my wife over there. And so I got a phone call when I was, not supposed to be in just yet, but I was preparing to go in for the day. He was like, Brynn, I need you to do me a solid. Can you please go by the house? I don't want my ex to go by there. So and so's cleats are at the house. Can you please pick them up on your way to go run your errands and drop them off? And so I was like, yeah, of course, not a problem, because I had been able to navigate both households. Now, with that being said, it's not always rainbows and sunshine. There's a lot of stress that we carry as your support in your nanny, to make sure that we're not overstepping our boundaries. We're not, putting ourselves in situations we don't want to be in. So it's a lot of, balancing act on our end. But, when you find a family that you work really well with and you understand the dynamic that, like, hey, they don't really get along right now, things didn't end well, so and so cheated on somebody, or somebody took all the money out of the, whatever the details are, it's none of our business. The thing that we care about most is supporting your children. That's why we're there. And I always thought, in my nannying career, I was like, I'm just supporting children of all ages at this point, because even the parents are, they're just big kids. They're just adult, kids with money at this point. But yeah, nannies do float between households to give you a very short answer to your question. And so many of us really excel in those dynamics where, I've definitely worked for families that just really want you to stay in their household. They don't even let you interact with their ex, and that's totally fine too. The thing I just have to reiterate is just be very clear on your expectations and know that we are very adaptable beings. We're
Right.
really great at pivoting and picking up what needs to be picked up. So if it begins as I only want you at my household and then it changes into, okay, well, maybe we could float between the two, have that conversation with your nanny. That's all
Yeah.
you have to do.
And I'm thinking even like pre-divorce, if this is something that both parents agree would be in the best interests of their children, this is something that can be negotiated into your divorce settlement. Who's going to offset the
Absolutely.
cost for the nanny? How
Mhm.
long the nanny is going to be involved in the child's life? Which are you going to talk to Brynn to get your nanny or household manager, or are you going to do it privately? Like there's
Mhm.
so many things that could be written into a mediated settlement
Yeah.
that way the cost is even covered within that settlement. So it's not like
Yeah.
now the parents are fighting over who's got to pay for the nanny because you've negotiated this all in advance. So I just
Absolutely.
this is an underutilized resource for divorcing people,
Mhm.
even if it's temporary, before you
Yeah.
get the final arrangement, during temporary orders, maybe there's a nanny that comes in to provide that support. I think this is a
So
great,
true.
yeah,
So true. I've actually worked with many mediators for those pre-divorce families to kind of help them figure out, a lot of their logistical questions, how it kind of gets going. Because honestly, a lot of people don't understand that you can incorporate this. And I truly 100% back up that statement that if you incorporate a nanny pre-divorce and your child already knows them, and then you kind of go through that, it is so wonderful to kind of contain that blowback with your kids. Because the one thing I see across the board is even though they look fine, they're not fine.
right.
There's something going on in there that they're struggling with. There's something from the divorce process that is going to kind of stick with them. And even if you're the most, I mean, everyone is the most loving parent and they really mean well and they're doing everything in their power, but we're all humans and there's no book on this. There's no perfect way to do it. So just know that there are people out there that truly and genuinely want to be supportive, and we have the tools for success to help you. And yeah, I'm just out here to helping children of all ages.
Yeah, yeah. And like I say, I think it's something that is so it's just not even on people's radar as to the services that are available. And that's why I thought, having you come on and share the kind of services you offer and how that actually looks for couples in divorce, since this is what we're specifically talking about. But there's lots of other reasons. If a spouse is deployed, if a spouse
Yes.
travels for work, like long haul truck drivers and things,
Yes.
it there's a lot of families where one spouse is gone more than they're present for many
Hmm.
different reasons. And so this doesn't just
Oh
have
yeah.
to be if you're in divorce. This can be
No.
any household. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh yeah. I just met with some clients the other day, and he's a professional hockey player, so he's traveling around quite often. And they have 4 kids, and they're beautiful, wonderful, amazing kids. They are really fun, but mom needs some help, and it's
Yeah.
okay. I think a lot of parents feel like if they're asking for help, then they're failing, and that's not the truth at all. When you sit down and you're like, hey, I could use an extra set of hands, you're actually becoming a better parent because you have more patience, you have more time, you have more freedom. If you want to go do one on one with your eldest one day and then kind of shuffle through the line of children to have one on one time with each, that's great. We're here to
Yeah.
help you. We'll handle the other ones. Go have a great time. Go build that, bond and have that time with your kids. You have 18 summers until they decide they want to get out and go live their lives
If you're
most of the
lucky,
time.
you've got 18 summers.
Yeah. If they're
So
not ready to go at 11.
yeah, yeah. The older they get, the more independent they get. They want to spend time with
Yes.
their buddies and their friends and all that. So, Bryn,
Yes.
we are out of time. I cannot believe how
Oh.
fast these conversations go. But I'm asking everybody who comes on this particular series to give people listening their one piece of divorce advice.
Gosh, there's so much that I would love to say to that. I would say put your children first. Remember that you can't speak poorly of your ex in front of your child and expect your child to thrive. That was one thing that really sometimes I still get emotional about it. And it's just like you can't pour that poison into your children and expect them to be happy, loving, excited beings. You really need to take a step back. And I know that you may be really unhappy with your ex because they cheated on you or they did something wrong to you. But just remember, your child cannot hear that and move into a thriving mindset. They will shift into surviving, they will keep things from you, and they will kind of start to shut down. So if there's anything I can share with anyone, it's swallow your pride, pull up that grit, put that grit pearl inside of you, and just know that your kids are so loving and happy, and do your best to just pull back on that and just say, you know what, I don't agree with what your dad is doing right now, but I love you. We both love you, and we're going to find our way through this.
Yeah, what a great message. And I concur. I think that's a great piece of divorce advice for everybody to keep in mind. Brynn, one more time, and I'm going to make sure this gets in the show notes, but one more time, give us your website.
Nannynetwork.com.
Thank you so much, Brynn. This
Of
has been
course.
really, I love talking to you. You always give so much
Thank you.
practical information. And hey, if you're listening to this episode of Spotlight on the Divorce Expert, don't forget to like, tweet, share, whatever you want to do. Leave a comment. I would really appreciate that. And don't forget to tune in for our next episode.